Hello, hello, reality sandwich community. Holly here for another Share Your Experience episode. I'm stoked today because this one's been a little bit of a long time coming. I think I connected with the fantastic artist Chris Dyer through email maybe months ago, and we're here now today doing this. So thanks, Chris. I'm really excited to meet and connect today.
Yeah, I'm super stoked to be here on the sandwich. Where did that name come from? Because there's a song by White Trash Shaolin, which is a really weird hip hop performer who has a song called You Are Taking a Bite of a Reality Sandwich. I don't know if you
What?
know about it, but if you
I
don't, you should
don't.
go and find it. Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
White
I'm gonna
Trash
go.
Shaolin,
Okay, all right.
reality sandwich.
I'm like literally writing this down right now because I had no idea. The name came from a poem,
Oh,
but I've not heard it in a song. So that's awesome. I
yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah. It's fun. That's a
Okay.
really
Okay,
weird
cool.
rapper, but
All right.
so
We'll put that on
how
as like
can I
our song of the day on
answer all
Instagram.
of your questions? Thanks for interviewing me.
Well, okay. So as I was, mentioning to you, um, what we love to do here when we do these share your experience interviews is ask about a particular psychedelic experience you had, any plant medicine of your choice. Maybe it was your first time you ever encountered psychedelics, or maybe something just recent or memorable. Something sparking coming to mind that you want to share about today?
I'm going to give you two options.
Okay.
The
Okay. Ooh, I
first
like this.
one is 19-year-old Chris doing his first San Pedro uh,
Ooh.
journey, which then led me to leave my street gang. Or
Interesting.
my 40th ayahuasca ceremony where I cut off my dreads. I
Ooh. Oh, those are both
can do
good.
both too if you want, but
Yeah, I have to hear a little bit about both of these because
okay,
I'd love to go in the Wayback Machine and hear about 19-year-old Chris, and then let's fast forward to yeah, I want to
yeah,
hear both. Let's do this.
okay, cool. So I'm Canadian. I was born in Ottawa. I moved to Lima, Peru at age 4. This is 1984, 85. No, actually 83. And I lived in Peru for 17 years. Very confused human being, out of place, figuring out. One of the things I did in my youth was I was in a street gang called Sepulcro. It was like hooligan styles where you go to a soccer stadium and cheer for your soccer team, and then you go out and you fight the followers of the other soccer team. And this was like a weekly activity for me. On Sundays, I'd go to the bad part of town and hang out with like really. So I'm like upper class in Lima, and I went to a private boys school. But on Sundays, I would go and hang out with like really ruffian bad part of town, and I'd go and like look for trouble and fucking fight. And I don't know, I had this destructive
Rebelling.
energy as
Yeah.
a
It's
kid.
like, yeah,
Um,
have to rebel.
I did that from 14 to like 19. And actually, when I never did any psychedelics in my youth in Peru. It just was not there. And weed just sounded scary. But then when I came back, I moved to Canada, back to Ottawa to live with my grandmother at age 17. That was 1996. And I came back on my first vacation. And on that first vacation, all of my friends were smoking weed. And I was like not in the groove. They're already like going hard with giant joints and growing plants on the rooftops, and I was just like a newbie and just got into it right away. It was maybe a little bit too hard for me because it got me really paranoid because maybe you go over sometimes. Um, on that vacation, my friends were also not only smoking weed, but they're also like trying all the things. And a big psychedelic from the Lima area of Peru, because it's desert, is San Pedro cactuses, also known as huachuma to the natives, but to Lima, it's San Pedro, which is classic to put on the front of a house because Saint Peter's gonna protect your doorway, and so every second house has a San Pedro there. So we knew that the San Pedros had like 7 or 8 lines that had the mescaline, and you go around your neighborhood on your BMX and a towel and a machete at night, and you just chop off these cactuses from the fronts of people's houses, put it in the towel, and run away. Once we had enough, we'd go a couple hours south of Lima to a beach house. It was winter, so the parents are away, and we boil the chopped off cactus for hours, and then we drank it, and then we walked just like the beach for like 12 hours. And the cactus kind of like teaches you certain um ways or perspectives, and we're all trying to figure out reality as we're 19-year-old tripping out on the beach. In that journey, I put my toque over my eyes, and the symbol of my soccer team, which is a U in a circle, came alive. And I was like, hey, tomorrow there's a soccer match. Are you going to go and check me out? And I'm like, dude, I'm like 2 hours south of Lima, plus the stadium's like another hour downtown. I'm like in the middle of a 12-hour trip. I'm not gonna sleep, but I don't want to go. And the symbol was like, "What? I thought you loved me all these years. You're supposed to cheer me in the soccer stadium. You're gonna fight for me, and what? Tomorrow you're not gonna go?" And I'm like, okay, I'll go. So I tripped out all night, and at 6 in the morning, wherever I was going to go to sleep, I had to walk like a couple kilometers through the desert to get to the highway, take a bus to Lima, and then you just eventually get to like downtown to meet my gang. And my gang, which was the gang of the, I wouldn't say the fancy part of town, but not so terrible. We went to the really, really terrible part of town, and we get there and we're hanging out. But me being light skinned, I'm kind of standing out. And this one local came up and he was like, "What the fuck's this white dude doing here?" And I was all like, kind of like burnt out from doing San Pedro all night. And he's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, I am I. And he got really pissed off by that response, broke a bottle on the ground and started going at me, be like, "What the fuck you tell me, blah, blah." And I was like, "My name is Christopher. My name is Christopher." So that's how that's starting. And then we're like, okay, we're going to go out and fight another gang. Let's look for trouble. Let's look for the enemy gang, and we're going to fight them. So uh, we go out looking, and we see down an avenue already a fight was brewing. So the fights are basically groups of between 100 to 1,000 people, and they're throwing rocks at each other. And there's two groups going back and forth, and they're just throwing rocks, and there's just rocks everywhere on the street for some reason, and bricks, and people are throwing shit from their roofs, and it's fucking chaos. So you're in that fucking avalanche and just throwing and going back and forth. So we came from the back, and we're like sandwiching our enemies, and since we were left less, they ran through us. So our response was to like maybe grab him and beat him up or throw rocks or whatever at it. And me, I'm like just imitating everything. I grab a brick and I throw it at a dude, and it barely missed his head, and it fell against like the wooden portón garage door. Bonk! And in that second, I was like, holy shit, I almost hit that dude in the head with a brick. And the noise of that wood and brick was like, whoa, if he got hit, he was going to go down, and Eric's just going to beat him up till death. And I've seen some people who got beaten up to death in the soccer stadium. It's just the levels of downtown Lima, Peru in the 90s. But that kind of woke me up. So it wasn't the psychedelic itself that woke me up to be like, what the fuck am I doing throwing bricks at strangers for what? For soccer? Like, what the fuck? This is bizarre. This is stupid. Like, what? And this is just a microcosm of the fights we see all around the world about a bunch of stupid shit. And everybody's just taking a side on a team and fighting the other team. So that thing that we say, like, wow, Peruvian soccer fandom and they're hurting themselves for no reason, it's the same fucking thing with everything else in this planet right now. And anyways, I'm not saying that woke me up and I became enlightened, but it showed me the illusions of things that shouldn't be. And in that way, that psychedelic did its work like after the actual psychedelic experience, through the experiences in my life. And I find that psychedelics does that a lot, where say like I'll go in the Aya void, and it like stirs things in me, and it does all its like alchemical calibration, and it cleans you up, but then it throws it into the world, but it also like organizes certain events to happen to work its magic. So Aya is like not only in the Aya thing. Aya is the spirit, or what is Aya? Mother Nature, God, consciousness. I don't even know what it is, but they do their magic in our lives to help us get where we've prayed to get. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna leave the story there. I know my stories get kind of long.
No, that's good. No, that's totally right though. Like, I mean, I definitely agree with that. Like, the psychedelics themselves just kind of like open the door. Like, you have to choose to keep walking through it. Like, it's not like a complete process just because you had the experience. It just like gave you the boost to then go on and make your decisions with maybe a bit more knowledge afterward.
At the end of the day, we, or hopefully the most uh, aware or present aspect of ourselves, can take the options that we can learn that are good. And we're really confused many times in our life, like what is good, what is wrong, and we have to like make mistakes a million times and forgive ourselves for those mistakes as we learn to polish the diamond, hopefully without dragging a bunch of trauma and guilt and and issues from the mistakes of the past, just kind of like being like, okay, cool, like I forgive my enemies or whatever, or and I forgive myself, and let's just be here right now and try our best all the time. And yeah, and just hopefully connect to the voices that we hear on psychedelics. Like on psychedelics, we hear those voices and the guides and the coaches and the spirits just being like, okay, this is who you are, this is who you're not, like, come on, you can do it. Once I did this psychedelic journey, and that's a totally different story I won't tell, it's kind of private, but part of the journey had it that they had me mic'd up, and they encouraged for whatever was coming through to talk to Chris. So I have an audio of like 2 hours of like spirits talking to me, but through my voice. And I
Oh
find
wow.
that Aya does that a lot. Like say like Aya likes to massage me. So like I don't massage
Mm.
myself. It's not like my thing. But on Aya, like she goes in, it's like, okay, let's get this fucking muscle energy moving. At the same time that she's moving other things around me, she's actually using my hands to like work certain things. Like, oh, thanks, Aya. Like I appreciate
Yeah.
the massage. I could have done that myself like every other day, but I don't, because I'm always like, chasing my tail. But anyway.
I like what you said about the plant medicines teaching us to be more self-compassionate. I feel like that comes up so much for so many people. Like, one thing I hear most often from people talking post psychedelic experience, don't take everything so fucking seriously. Like, chill out. It's okay. Like, everybody's all right. There's nothing wrong with you. We're fine. And the other is, yeah, just be kinder to yourself, because if you can just be kinder to yourself, I mean, I think it's almost easier to be kinder to other people than it is to be kinder to ourselves. Like, we just have these like
Oh yeah.
crazy standards for ourselves that we would never impose on other people.
Oh
It's
yeah, a
insane.
hundred percent.
Like,
Like sometimes you're sad, and I'm like, I can't help but being sad right now. But I can try to make somebody else happy who's sad, like especially as like say like an artist that like people like me or they're fans of me, and I don't take it that too serious, but at the same time, I know that like it's really easy for me to make people happy with not that much effort. So then why not do that? And then you just spread a lot of happiness, and you hope that later when you're sad, somebody else will spread the happiness to you, and then we can all lift each other up.
well, and I assume, I mean, obviously creating your art brings you an immense amount of joy. So just even to spreading that around the world is like, I mean, this is your gift. This is your gift. One of your many
Try my
gifts.
best. I have fun with it. But yeah, just doing my humble contribution to the vibes and the human culture if possible.
I love it. Well, I want to talk about your art more, but first I got to hear about this ayahuasca experience that inspired you to cut off your dreadlocks. How long had you been growing these dreadlocks?
Yeah.
Spill the
Um,
tea.
okay, so I don't want to make the story too long, so I'm just trying to like like cut off parts, because these are stories that I tell in my slideshow speeches. I've been doing so I've always done workshops and speeches, but for this particular book tour that I've been doing all year, I've been telling like all the stories that go along in the book and stuff. But anyways, um, Okay, so jumping into the 40th ayahuasca journey, you gotta kind of like preface that there was a 39 journeys before that, and
Yeah.
I actually only started doing Aya at age 33, which for a Peruvian psychedelic artist was kind of late. I actually like avoided doing Aya for a while because I hate stereotypes and I hate to be put in a box. It's like, oh, he's Peruvian. Oh, he does trippy art. Oh, this is all about ayahuasca. And I'm like, nope, never done it. This is what's coming from my heart. And you know what? I don't want to do it now because I want to make sure that stuff that comes out in my art is 100% me and I'm not using like a ghostwriter or being influenced by something that is not me. What I learned once I did ayahuasca is like, I am that too. And you don't need it to channel, but it's like when I do Aya, I don't even see my art, but I
Mm.
feel Aya in my art. And I think other people might feel the vibe. I don't know what all of this is. It's like invisible, vibrational, energetical stuff, and art is trying to make like an image of it, and what
Mm.
tickles what is like a mystery, and why, and color combinations. But I'm just trying to be like open and channel and stuff. But anyways, back to the story. Um, I've had dread since I left my house. I did college in Ottawa and I moved to Montreal in the year 2000 and I had dreadlocks for 21 years. It was pretty much my identity.
Mm.
It's what actually turned me to be a hippie. When I first got my dreads, I was like a punk metalhead that just drank and terrible person. And then I went tree planting, depressed for my life that I created for myself. I went tree planting in the north of Canada and the other dreadlock people got attracted to me and we'd all hang out together and then I'd learned how to be a hippie from them and just from all the other hippies that were a tree planter, and that's what kind of like took me into like, oh, now I want to hitchhike across Canada and learn how to be a hippie and save the environment and do art that brings spirituality. Like it kind of like helped me um bring the positive side that was in me, but it was like locked in all this armor of like, ooh, like I gotta defend this sensitive, you know, I don't want to say traumatized kid, but like we're all hurt and we all got our wounds and insecurities, and you put all these armors like the street gang thing to kind of like protect it. And yeah, so I'd say the dreads was one of those things too, to some degree. I was just trying to find expression and I loved it. And then it became kind of like I don't say a prison, but like throughout 21 years, many times I was like, cut that thing. Can you do it? Mm? And I'm like, well, yeah, I can grab scissors and cut these big, beautiful things at any point, and I'll still be cool and confident. Oh, can you? Well, prove me. And then the other voice in me is like, well, I don't have to prove it. I just know I am it, you know? And I'd have a lot of those inner conversations later once I started doing Aya. Sometimes I'd be like, cut the dreads. And I'd be like, okay, tomorrow, Aya, whatever you want. Like, I'm ready to fucking surrender and just be whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. And then the next morning, be like, but I know who I am. I don't need to cut my dreads to know. So it was like a big like psychological game my mind and God are playing, and I'm just kind of like looking at it and have to take a decision. But the 40th, I was teaching a retreat in Peru. It was during the COVID years, so the rule was it had to be 2 weeks long to count as uh, quarantine. That was a Peruvian rule. So we did a two week long retreat, which was like 2 times as long, and we did four ceremonies and two camels. Just basically, the medicine just goes deeper and does more work the more you do it. And finally, it was my 40th. I was like, oh, I wonder if it's gonna be like extra strong because it's the 40th, and it was a really good one. One of the students had this really beautiful catharsis explosion of energy that was so interdimensional and interesting and healing to her. And I was also like super in the void. And then we all came down and we go around the fire and and we're telling stories about what happened and everything's good. And all of a sudden I start burping and then burping and burping. It's like, whoa, something's coming up. I'm like nonstop burping. And I was like, whoa, it's like pulling me back, which never has happened to me. So I went back to my mat and then I was like going way back into like the sickness of Aya, So I was like, man, there's like something dark in me that has to come out. Like I'm fighting something for years, and I can feel it sometimes. Like Aya wants to unstick it, but it's got its fucking claws right in there, and it's just not letting go. And I'm always like, please, just like, like when you really want to vomit on ayahuasca and get that shit out, but it's not happening. So I do rapé, which usually kind of like both activates the medicine more, but also like makes me like sick and nauseous, and I'm coughing, and then I start almost yelling. And my class, actually, they were all kind of like celebrating and happy, but they see I'm going through a thing, so they start doing chants. Like a few of my students are like quite shamanic themselves, so they're like all like focusing chants to kind of like cheer for me in my process that they don't understand, but they can see I'm like fighting something. And then one of my students, who was this psychic, and that's a whole different story, but like I called her in her dreams, till like eventually she's like, okay, Chris Dyer, I'll come to your fucking retreat. But we became best friends after that. And she had just gone through like a really trippy yeah thing where she, anyways, it's, but she saw me struggling. She came with her singing balls. She worked her vibrational magic. I turned to liquid light, rainbow. And then I saw myself at the gates of heaven, or like the barrier before God, and it was like a stairway, and it's colorful, it's made out of light, and I'm just feeling the soul there, and I'm like, man, I want to go back home. I want to be back one with you. And and God's like, well, just just do it, just be free. It's like, but how can I be free? I really want to be free, but what is being free? Like, how do I say like I am free and then you are free? It's like a choice you got to do every second of your life repeatedly, and you got good days and you got bad days, and it's like, just jump in the waters of freedom. Like, what I was trying to liberate, and I still always am, is giving a shit about what anyone says about me. And that's something I think that we all carry. But when you become public, and then all of a sudden you have like thousands of people like looking at you and your story, and there's like, people who think you're amazing and people who think you're the worst person in the world. And like, I'm just trying to be like a non-insecure human being that can be of service to the Most High. And I feel like I'm carrying this backpack because I'm giving a shit what other people are saying about me. And so yeah, I wanted to let go of that. And in that process, she said like, can you just please fucking cut your dreads? And I'm like, yes, okay, I'll do it this time.
Okay, I'm serious this time.
Yeah, like, prove to me that you can do a gesture of detachment to what you think you are. You are not this body, this avatar. You're not Chris. You're not a man. You're not this race. You're not your life. You are this amazing, beautiful, unlimited soul, and feel it. Look how beautiful you are. Can you feel how vast and gorgeous you are? Just fucking live from that. And the details are the details, and don't, as you said before, we can be our worst enemies. Our mind constantly attacks us, and we're in fear from just like negative inner dialogue that we have to be very aware about, and like make sure to be like, no, thank you very much, I don't want to think that way about myself. I just want to love myself no matter what, and my pure imperfection. So the next morning, in the sharing circle we had with the students, everybody sharing, and then it was like my turn, and I told the story I just told you. And then I grabbed the scissors and I put this song. I can't even remember the song, but just to kind of like a really nice reggae by the lady about like self love, And I cut all my dreads right away, and it was a big thing for me. And I was like, oh, cutting hair, who cares? But I did have a lot of attachment, and actually, my psychic had to go into the energetical spiritual space the next Aya ceremony to detach the energetical dreads, that even though my hair was gone, still there was like energetical dreads, and she had to go and pluck them out one by one and go in and like calibrate certain coding that was still faulty. And it's super trippy and interesting to me because I don't have any psychic powers, but I'm always like so interested in hearing what those people who have clairvoyance, clairhearance, etc., what they can pick up to really understand truly what reality is. And in these psychedelic journeys, we get confirmation that this is more than just like, silly talk or hallucination or woo woo. This is a reality. And soon, I believe, most of us or all of us will start gaining these abilities to see, hear, feel more than we have in human history, or at least the history that I know.
And I think, yeah, I think we are. I honestly feel that way. I feel like I encounter more and more people all the time that are kind of like waking up to these gifts or just like acknowledging inklings. And it's a practice. Everything's a practice. Everything's a muscle that you have to train, right? But like, I think it's also about trusting ourselves and having that, again, like that self trust and compassion to know, like, hey, like my gut is feeling this, or my heart is telling me this, or I'm actually getting like a nudge here. But like, we just have to work on trusting that. And I do think that we are becoming more and more gifted in those psychic realms, and more people and the children being born today just seem just a little more magical. I do
Mhm.
think that's happening. I do.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel it in myself. Like even just in the last couple of months and weeks, I feel like the vibration is changing. Even though there's like a edge of like maybe a little bit of fear from the unknown and the negative things that could be looming in our imagination, which is all, and the bad things that are actually happening right now. Terrible, terrible things are still happening right now, and I can't wait for these things to end. But it also, there's this other energy of excitement and the astral alignments and just the shifts and the awakenings, and there's like a buzz for like the positive. I feel the positive energy already won, and now we just kind of gotta like do the work to get to the other side. But there's
Mhm.
not getting to the other side. Getting to the positive side is a given, but they might throw a couple wrenches in the machine on their way out, if you know what I mean. Not to get too
Yeah.
conspiratorial, but there's like, dark forces, both energetical, human, alien, that I think are
Mhm.
influencing the human equation right now. And we could figure out how to be a beautiful planet that's healthy, that's united, that's harmonious, that accepts each other's differences. Even I think we can do that, and I think we can do that in my own lifetime. So that's
Mm.
my that's my optimistic point of view.
Good. Let's keep holding the vision because I'm with you, and we can't think anything other than that because we have to manifest this reality.
Yeah,
But
if we
it
don't believe
is.
it can happen, then you make no moves.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You have to take the action too, right? Like manifestation isn't just wishing something would happen. It's like we have to, sometimes manifestation is like accepting the invite to do the thing to get us to the place we're going, you know. I think
Hmm.
that a lot of
Totally.
times plant medicine gives us like those little nuggets and insights and nudges too. Okay, you mentioned something about like how ayahuasca almost like the experiences almost like layer on themselves, so they go deeper and deeper every time. Like, can you speak to that a little bit? Like, you've had so many sittings with Aya. How does this work continue to deepen time after time?
I guess like deepen is relative, because she, if I can call her a female, does different things at different points, depending of what I need in that moment. Some sessions are just purely repair. This motherfucker's been drinking too much. Last week, Chris, really? You didn't even do a proper diet before coming? God damn it. Let me spank you for 3 hours and get these toxins out. And good job wasting your ceremony, dude. Uh, just gotta recalibrate this dummy. Uh, others can be like, say, like I've done some dietas. Do you know dietas?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so I've done throughout the years. I've gone for like an extra week where
Mhm.
like I just do the master plant. I've done dietas with Ahosacha, Bobinsana, and Bachuja. Bachuja was the last one. Ugh.
Right.
Ugh.
Not a fan.
Oh, they're all disgusting, but the last one, like I could not. I had to drink it 3 times a day, and every time it would make me puke. It was just so bad. It's like drinking a tree of vile. Ugh. But anyways, when you do the master plant dietas and then you're combining it with the ayas, that's when they go deeper, because it's almost like they're like tag teaming with this other consciousness entity, like say with the Ahosacha. I feel like Ahosacha got so deep into like my whole body, it was just garlic. I just turned into garlic. So the Aya could just go in and explore all these dark corners of my physical
Mm.
being and perhaps find more dirt or hidden whatever, I don't understand it, to cleanse it out and do her work. And then the revelations that come through like really deep journeys like that is where you're just like in the other dimension in the tree of life, and it's that, you know, library of all consciousness, and you're like, what the fuck's this, and who am I, and like who are we, and what are we doing here? And or other times you get out of, well, many times you get out of time and space just into like what we would kind of call DMT land. Sometimes I just go into DMT land, and I'm, but what's cool about I is that sometimes it can be like a whole hour, sometimes 2 hours, which is exhausting, because the body's at the same time like feels like it's being stung or poisoned by like some weird animal, and it's like, what the fuck's going on? Like, so your body, like at the same time that I'm like, whoa, I'm like the fucking, you know, I'm this alien from a different dimension, and reality is fucking awesome. Meantime, my body's like, god damn it, like stop this, you know, disgusting sickness. So there can be many things happening at the same time. Sometimes I just feel like I'm being operated, and she's like going in and cleansing things. She's electrocuted me a couple
Oh,
times, where you kind
okay.
of like your hands lose pressure, almost like when you do like the breathing thing, and your
Mhm.
hands all of a
Oh,
sudden
yeah,
start
yeah.
dripping. Like that's happened
T-Rex
to me, and
hands,
I'm
yeah.
just like losing pressure. Like, so she's doing some really physical things that
Right.
then make me projectile puke, which I'm identifying as like she's finding a critter, and she's like, I need to get this shit out. I'm gonna sap him. I'm gonna make the body so uncomfortable right now that this motherfucker's gotta get out, both energetically and physically.
Mhm. Yeah.
Sorry if I'm swearing too much. I hope you don't mind. It's
No, I love
you
it.
know.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So
So, okay.
I love the medicine. I'm grateful.
I know, I know. I love it. Speaking of entities, have you encountered many entities with either ayahuasca or DMT? And do you see the same entities repeatedly? Or is it kind of like one off stuff? Or is it like, oh, hey, what's up, old friend? Nice to see you here?
Yeah. It's so interesting, Holly, because I paint mostly just entities. Sometimes I'll do a landscape, but it's not really my thing. It's mostly like the characters, and invent all these interdimensional characters. And I've had more than one psychic tell me like, oh, you're like channeling these beings that actually exist on a different dimension. And they're
Mm.
super stoked that you're bringing them to the eyes of this planet.
Oh,
So, you know,
cool.
and when you paint murals, it's kind of like a portal to their vibration world, and they can, you know, enter and bring their energy to that place. This is what some psychics have told me, more than one, and I'm like, cool, because that's what I want to do. That's
Yeah.
my intention. I want to bring good vibes wherever I go, may it be mine or the interdimensional ones. Um, but I don't see entities in my journeys.
Okay.
So that's the weird thing. I feel them, I hear them, but I rarely, like, I think one time I saw like an insectoid kind of praying mantis kind of situation, but other than that, I don't see my characters in my journeys. I see mandalic stuff from portals and kind of like pyramidical, nonsensical 3D geometry, architecture of infinity that just goes on forever. And when I'm there, I'm just like, I can't paint this shit. This is too much. This is like way beyond my painting capacity. What I'm doing is merely a cartoon of how I feel inside. And I feel, maybe if I can say so myself, maybe I am an alien from that dimension. And and I'm just channeling, you know, my family from that place while vacationing as a human for a lifetime or 1,000. Um,
That could be something. Or what if too, like, what if so like these entities that you're painting, wherever you connected with them, however, like what if wherever their world is, they're just like painting like you, just like guy, like human. They have like all these paintings of you, and everyone's like asking them, like, wow, who is this guy? They're like, no idea. I just keep seeing him.
that's cool. I imagine that the creatures or entities or consciousnesses of that dimension probably have more access to observe us, as if say physical reality is just a fishbowl on their metaphysical spaceship, and they just see once in a while, they check in on their humans and it's like, whoa, look what's happening now in the physical dimension. And when we do psychedelics, it's like all of a sudden we can see out of the fishbowl and we're seeing their world and we're like, what is this place, you know?
Yeah, I've
I
heard
thought
that
that's so
theory.
trippy, your idea that one of them is, painting a human being like, who is this trippy guy?
Yeah. Look at his beard thing. That's weird. Like just like human
I gotta make
characteristics.
a animated short with that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I have heard that theory before. I don't know if it was maybe it was David J. Brown that said this. Now I'm forgetting, but the theory that like people talk about breaking through on DMT and entering the waiting room and they see the machine elves and all these other common things. And it's like, okay, well, those little machine elves and other things you see there, the pranksters and stuff, like they're doing the same thing that we're doing. We're all coming to this waiting room. Maybe they're not smoking DMT like we would. Maybe it's a different way that they access that place. But like, sure, why wouldn't it be possible that these other planets or planes of reality exist and there is some portal or tunnel or connection that we're all just like popping in and saying what's up? Like that
Right. Because
makes
what is
perfect sense to me. Like that seems logical.
like space makes sense here because this is space that requires space, whatever
Mhm.
that sentence word sandwich just meant. um, but when we do psychedelics, have you ever gone into a wormhole? Like once I was on a trip that on a I had trip in I think in Canada during COVID, and I got into a wormhole into a mushroom trip of 3 months before, and all of a sudden I was on the floor of my apartment tripping on mushrooms because I was going through a lot of healings. I was engaged, and then she just kind of like we got separated by COVID, and then she went on with her life, and I was heartbroken about it. And I was just doing a lot of mushrooms to kind of like deal with the pain of once again losing a love because I'm also divorced, and I got a human life, and that's where the psychedelics come in to boot. But that was so interesting to see the wormhole into the past version of me, and also giving me some contrast of like, you see how much better you're feeling now from when you were there. So yeah, that time and space, this illusion that happens on those experiences are quite interesting and informational in a way. So
That did happen there. I did have an experience like that. I had an ayahuasca ceremony. It was like it was one fall. It was in September, and first night was brutal. It was just brutal. Second night was perfect. Picked up all the pieces and put me back together. But you know how that could go. So a few months later, I'm in Mexico with some friends, and we're just eating LSD, collecting seashells, walking on the beach. It's a beautiful day, and the sun sets and we're all back at this house and something happens. Like I hear almost like locks turning in my brain, like it was an auditory hallucination, and I was just in this bedroom alone, and all of a sudden I was right back in the kind of challenging scary place of that ayahuasca ceremony, and I just had to like sit down on the floor because I was like, okay, it was so disorienting. Like I was taken out of this like lovely day on this LSD experience and put right back into this challenging part of this ceremony that clearly I hadn't fully processed. Like I was right back to the spot where physically in that ceremony I'd been like rejecting. I was trying to leave the room. I didn't want to be there anymore. Like I thought that was so interesting. That's the only time that when you say like a wormhole, that's kind of what I felt like was happening to me. Like, oh no, you weren't done.
uh-huh.
We're just gonna reel you right back in here. Let's
Yeah, no,
revisit.
because I find like when Aya or the medicine or spirits kind of integrate enough in you, like I feel Aya lives in me now. Like she's one of my guides,
Mhm.
whatever that means. So when I do any other psychedelics, she's like, what? Somebody open up a portal? Let's
Yeah,
go and get a little cleanup of this guy.
yeah.
And she starts working. It's like I've had mushroom ceremonies that totally turn into Aya where I'm puking and stuff. I've had recently I was at the Sphere and Dead and Co. and I did a poster for them, and I ended up partaking a tab, and then I'm in my hotel room being like, oh my god, when is it gonna end? Because it's just so long, and then I started throwing up in my bathroom because just I was like, well, might as well clean up this dude a little bit.
That's such a
It's kind of
what a
like a
strange
Aya
thing.
flashback.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It totally is. And I hear that, people, I think even the shamans at the time had told me too, like, once she's with you, she's with you. Like, she
Hmm.
will find ways to move through you and around you. And that is so, you be prepared. You're entering a relationship with this medicine, and it's
Right.
definitely
I,
felt
I
that way.
think she's there from before. On my first ceremony, she said through the voice of somebody else in the group, it was a group of like four people. And there was this Argentinian girl, and she spoke in Spanish, but I know Spanish, and she was talking in the as ayahuasca to me. And I was like taken aback a little bit. It's
Oh.
like, Chris, don't worry. You'll be able to do all these paintings. Chill out. Like, you'll be able to paint all these things little by little. Don't get overwhelmed. You know, we've been friends for a long time, even before this first official encounter in this lifetime. But you work for me. Thank you so much for the work you've done in all these 33 years. Your life is your ayahuasca ceremony. We're already partners, and I'm excited for the things we'll be doing together. And that trip was like the best, Aya just like showed off like the best of her feathers. It's like this is what it could be when it's good. Like I did puke, but I didn't even care that I puked. But the puking part was interesting to me. It was the first time I'd purged and noticed that I was purging negative energy. And I was like really interesting and informational. But she just took me into like all these different dimensions of curiosity and visual artistic stimulus, but it also felt so ancient. And I saw a lot of like ancient Peruvian motifs, which
Mm.
confused me because ancient Peruvian motifs are very kind of like flat and graphic, tribal. And I'm like, am I seeing this because this is ingredient in my brain that I can grab and then clothe the energy that don't really have physical expression, or this is actually a real coding of expression from that particular dimension, and different tribes have been able to access it throughout time and then expressed it in their cultures. That's why we see so much
Mm.
cohesiveness of like entities from like Bali and Chavín in Peru and then China, and you see a lot of similar motifs and characters. And I think it's because they're all just, going into the center of the universe and connecting with this beautiful place that exists.
Oh, that's interesting. I love that. Okay,
And I
so
guess to some degree, I'm trying to do that, but in my own voice. And in my paintings, I'm just not fully going in. Like sometimes I'll go full into like, okay, let's redo Huiracocha in your own style. But in general, I'm just kind of like echoing the general style of Peruvian, pre-Columbian, and even pre-Incan mostly cultures, but with a modern twist. As a Peruvian Canadian skateboarder, street artist, traveler, and just like throw a bunch of modernity over it to resonate with other people of my current time.
okay, so you said early in our conversation that you're kind of like trying to avoid a little bit of the stereotype. Maybe found Aya later in life. So,
Hmm.
what was the original inspiration for your very particular style of art? Like, how did you first really start to churn this out? When did it become something that you're like, this is the Chris Dyer brand? Like, this is the art I create? Like, where did this source energy come from?
Um, so as a kid, when you're doing art, you're mostly imitating other things that you see. Like rarely a kid will do a drawing or a painting that's like straight from the dome and they're bringing something fresh. They're just learning how to draw a dog and a human and not a stick figure. So I'd say like a lot of my kid art was like imitating artists that I liked, which is mostly like pop culture, you know, stuff. There is a drawing from when I'm 16 years old, is in the back of my mathematics book, and it's just a portrait of me with my arms extended in my school uniform because I went to a private British school in Lima. And above is all this like energy coming out of my head and all this like magic and craziness coming out of my hands. And when I see it now, I was like, wow, that's some kind of like spiritual imagination of like energy emanation. Like I didn't know anything about spirituality. Like I for me spirituality was going to church and reading the Bible, but they don't talk about like that stuff so much, and their iconography is different. But I'd say my style has been kind of like making a stew of other styles and then creating it my own where it becomes unique and it's a thing of its own as a reflection of this human, and that's it's a thing of its own. Like I'm a really clusterfuck of like Peruvian Canadian and Latino and light skin and skateboarding from the 80s and surfing culture and record collecting and comic books and being in the streets painting murals and traveling. I've traveled to like almost 50 countries, and there's just so much beauty in this world and I love it so much, and I just want to grab little pieces of everything and make this nice stew and then throw some Chris Dyer sprinkles of rainbow color on it. And then I hope that that kind of like celebrates the oneness of reality or the different experiences I'm going through or whatever I have to say with the particular painting and resonate with everybody. Like you don't have to know any language to look at my art. You don't even have to be from any particular country to look at a painting and be, oh wow, like I see this in it, and that's what I found is when I put out my art, people be like, oh, that looks like Native American art, and the next person comes by and is like, oh, that looks like Chinese art, and the next person comes by like, oh, that looks like South American art, and I'm always like, cool, I'm so happy you see what you see. And so it's nothing but it's everything at the same time. So that's kind of like my general intention, but each painting is different. And yeah, I also like to change up the style. I get bored of always doing the same mediums, and sometimes I'll do paintings that are straight up bad if it gives me a chance to try something different and see if it works. And sometimes it works.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously I've been loving your latest book, Shamanic Journey, and it sits on
Nice,
my
thank you.
desk as like a beautiful piece of art that is also like a nice break in my day when I just need like, hey, I don't want to look at the computer anymore. I want to look at something pretty.
Right, you won't get screen burn from
Yeah, yeah,
pages in a book. I love it.
exactly.
Man,
And
books has become such an intelligent technology. You don't have to charge it. It
yeah,
runs for all of your life. You never gotta water it. You never gotta
yep,
charge it. It's always there, as good as new,
yeah,
as long as you don't throw it around.
yeah, yep, exactly. I know. I think when I mean I love the art. It's obviously so beautiful
Thank
and so fun to see almost like we were talking about the variances, but like the different energy based on the country that you're in as you're, this book is a shamanic journey. You're taking us around the world and you're taking us through a very long period of time. So there is something extremely human just about connecting all those dots on a map and connecting all those dots throughout your life. But the thing I love about it the most, aside from the incredible art, is that it reads like a diary. Like it's so vulnerable and honest. It feels like you're really just saying, look, here it is. I'm going to purge all my emotions out here because I'm human and this is human. Like creating this book, was that your intention when you started? Did you say like I just want to put myself out there as much as possible? And was that like a healing journey of itself to create this?
Yeah, for sure. In general, once again, it goes to what the medicine is trying to teach me. The medicine's like, Chris, don't hide. You're good. You're beautiful. Whatever you are is what you are. Love yourself for it. Don't judge yourself for it. Don't shame yourself, and no one else should shame you, and you shouldn't shame anybody. We all gotta love ourselves, love others, and if we can all do that, it's gonna be a beautiful world. So I gotta start with myself. So like the Chris I'm showing on paper is this is me with my goods, with my bads. I admit to be jealous to a fellow artist in one point, which is like embarrassing to admit, but it's also like that's how I was feeling, and this is what I did to deal with that emotion and try to overcome it. And I think every artist deals with that. We all can be jealous with each other when you see others succeeding and you're not. You're like, oh man, like it's a natural human feeling. And I think if we talk more about it, we take away the energy from it, and it becomes less of an actual negative emotion towards others. We just see like, oh, I feel that way, but also whatever. Like I'm not gonna let that make me do negative actions. Hopefully. And yeah, I don't know, I want to just present myself as I am. I think honesty, I think I will be more healed and actually more helpful when I can just be myself and allow myself to be myself and share myself in that way. And then others can also put down the guards, like, oh, well, if Chris can be himself, maybe I can be myself too. Like, hey, here we are, fuck it, we're imperfect, and but we're also beautiful, and let's make the most out of this existence. So that's my intention. Other than I'm like a hyper expressive human being that has to like fucking put everything out. It's just my nature. Don't ask me why. And like social media is both like a blessing and a curse.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
perfect for a dude who just liked to share everything he was doing. I'm just like excited about life and what I'm doing. And I hope it doesn't come off as like show offy. It's just like, you know, the ideal is that we're all doing good and then we all share it with each other and then we're all happy for each other. Sometimes there's contrast and we all take turns to be unhappy. So when we see other people happy and you're sad, you got a choice to be like, you know what? I'm going to be happy that they're happy right now. It's their turn to be happy. They earned it. They're a human being and we all got pains. I'm not going to feel extra unhappy because somebody else is having a good time. I'm going to see them as myself in a different body and wishing the best. And I know that love and attention for a positive reality will then bounce back to me, because what we
Mhm.
wish to others, it happens to us. Everything's so interrelated.
Mm.
So, yeah, we're just all trying our best. But
We're
thanks for
all
checking out my book. I'm happy you like it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, thank you for sending it. It's been a real joy, and especially I love all the concert posters and like String Cheese Incident is my favorite live band ever. So I love this
Oh, no
cheese
way. My
poster.
girlfriend's too. Like,
Oh,
that's all we see when, like, for Texas Eclipse and Suwani Hula. That's the only bands we checked out was String. Like, she's
oh, they put I
very faithful.
they put on the best live show on earth. That's my belief.
Uh-huh.
They're
Yeah,
so
I like it
so
a lot
fun,
too. It's very
so
joyful.
fun. And Halloween's a great venue to see them play too. That's a super fun
Yeah.
spot. I love Halloween.
That land does need a rest though. If they could
I bet.
not make a festival there for like 2 3 years, it'd be
Mm,
healthy for the land to regenerate. It's gotten very very dusty. The grass is dead from
mm,
so many people walking all over the place. There's a lot of people that go there, like certainly once a year for Halloween, but there's also
yeah.
Tipper and Friends, and there's this and the other, and the land is not really regenerating. So I don't know, like maybe it'd be good to, switch up venues if we can at
Right.
one point, just for the,
Okay.
for
If
our own
anybody's
good. So we are not like it's
yeah.
sucking
If
dust all
anybody's
day long.
listening to this, we need grass at Sewanee, please. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool.
oh,
Maybe we'll
oh,
find new regeneration ways where we can grow grass real quick and
yeah,
heal the land.
exactly.
Now the
That's what
technology's
we
out
need.
there.
That's what we need. Okay, I have one last question for you, and this is like just personal for me. I know you have quite a few incredible tattoos, and so my question is, as someone who is also a tattoo enthusiast, do you ever design your own, or do you like to go find artists and have a different style of art put on your body?
Yeah, I'm very much like a refrigerator with a bunch of stickers on me, in how
A
I
great
go
way to say
about
it.
my tattoo style. But I do come with direction sometimes. For example, like say you see this hand, like I drew that, and then my friend Chimu, who's one of my tattooers, he redid it in his style. And
Okay.
then my friend Joseph in Las Vegas, he redid it, but in his style. So
Got
like I'll give space for them to be the best of themselves, but also like, can you go with this vibe? I think the same for like the one in the back of my head. I haven't shaved my head. I don't know if you can see it, but like I drew
yeah.
that, and then when Chimu like did this portal, and the same for my head. Like the top here, I got a sun that was from one of my paintings, but I don't want to be shaving head forever. So one day when I go bald,
Yeah.
I'll have a
You'll be
beautiful
real styly.
sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a big face just poking out. It'll be super cool. I'll be a cool old guy.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've taken up a lot of your time today. I've loved connecting with you. I've loved hearing your stories and sharing in your energy. It's sending me into the weekend, like riding the high of your vibe. So thank you so much for meeting with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for reminding people about my book. Right now it's Black Friday. I don't know when this will come out, but right now I got Black Friday for 2 weeks. So you can get it like with 20% off, which is cheaper. And I just want this in people's house one way or another, because I got a lot of them.
Well, I
All
will
right.
we will put the link as well in these show notes. And yeah, everybody get this book. It's awesome. It's beautiful. You want it in your house.
I believe
It's
in a
gorgeous.
world where we still, can sit down and read a book. Like digital stuff is beautiful and awesome, and we have opportunities to do things like that. But it's also really nice to just like sit on your couch and cuddle
Have
up to a
something in
book.
your
I'm
hands.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm, I'm old school. I don't know. Like I'm in my 40s, so but yeah. Anyways, I'm just yakking your head off now. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you, Chris.